Unique New York. Unique New York. The Human Torch acquired a bank loan today. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Come on now, Twitch. Do re mi fa sol la ti do. I don't know if you guys have any other good vocal practices. I'm not really sure what we call those, but we are live now, so let's get ready to rumble. Welcome back, shooters, for a Team Handball Thursday edition of Shootin' Straight Handball Podcast. This is, as you all know, a very different setup to the show. We're doing a little early morning action, and we're joined by none other than Nick Ocello. Nick, how are we doing today?
I'm pretty good. I mean, day hasn't really started.
That's good.
So it's good. First thing in the morning. Hopefully, I don't mess up any words or nothing like that. So.
Nah, it's okay. You know, we only do this live, so it's all good. I don't have the editing power.
Yeah, I was gonna say normally, like, I have the opportunity to say cut that out or edit it. So I'm gonna have to be on my best behavior. No swear words in case kids are watching.
For the kids.
Things like that. So.
Yeah, we'll just say cut that, but we really, don't have any means to do it. But yeah, so it's all good. It's all good. You'll start today off on the right foot, hopefully. But as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Joe Williams. Joey, how we doing today?
I'm a little bummed out. I was hoping to get Blaze Reardon on, so we had to settle for Nick Ocello. But in all seriousness, good to have you on, Nick. It's very exciting to have a real lacrosse player who's interested in handball, and I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Absolutely. I'm excited. Thanks for the cheap shot right there.
Joey and I are both goalies, so we're a little biased towards fellow goalies.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Blaze is a good dude. Unfortunately, it's kind of funny because I'll be coaching kids or whatever in lacrosse. They'll be like, yeah, are you going to fight Blaze next year? And just to suck the life out of them and say, no, Blaze and I actually went and got Chipotle. I mean, we got a beer, but it was like, Blaze and I went and got Chipotle after the game, and we're good buddies to this day. And they're kind of like, oh, we were hoping to see another fight where you body slam and you punch him. And I'm like, well, that's not what it's about. So it's kind of fun to suck the wind out of the sails of all those kids who want to see round two.
Make a little awesome. WWE style.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely the first lacrosse player I've ever seen get thrown a shoe overhead in a lacrosse game. So,
I thought I was too heavy for that to happen. I mean, I'm 225, and credit to Blaze, whatever gym program he was on. I mean, he put me pretty much through Earth's crust. So that was, credit to him for being that strong, really.
Shout out CrossFit Albany for putting Blaze Reardon in body throwing shape. So Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your athletic background, and just get us up to speed.
So the brief background is I was born and raised in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and my mom's from Alaska and my dad's from Montana. So we didn't know anything about lacrosse growing up. And historically, a lot of kids start playing lacrosse or have a stick in their hand when they're 4 years old. I started in about 5th, 6th grade, and it was the first youth program in my area. So my introduction to lacrosse was a little bit late, but I grew up loving and playing football. My dad's from a mining town in Montana. There's not much to do other than love football. So I went to the local public high school, Wheat Ridge High School. Our mascot is the Farmers, so we were the Wheat Ridge Farmers, which we always got a ton of crap for. And then, seriously.
Where the weed at?
Other schools. What was that?
Where the weed at? The wheat.
Yeah. People would always be like, start up your tractors when we would be losing instead of start up the bus. So, jokes like that. And then I was fortunate enough to earn a scholarship to Notre Dame for lacrosse. I played 4 years of lacrosse there. And then after my 4th year, in one of the few things the NCAA does correctly, they actually grant a 5th year if it's a different sport. So kind of still having that love for football and having grown into my body significantly, I was able to earn a preferred walk-on spot at Notre Dame as a linebacker.
That's pretty legit.
I was a bit bigger back then, but, I only saw playing time on special team. And And then after that, I have kind of just been doing the pro lacrosse route. I played 3 years for a team called the Denver Outlaws, and then a whole new league started called the PLL. And I just wrapped up my second year with a team called the Redwoods. And then along the way, I was actually a coach at the Air Force Academy. I was a defensive coordinator. I played 3 years of indoor lacrosse, and then me and my a couple teammates actually started this company called Clinic Sports, where we take road trips to go coach in areas that are less developed from a lacrosse standpoint than the famously developed East Coast, Long Island, Baltimore, Philadelphia, places like that. So it's I've been really, really fortunate to attain this level of success, because like it's always about who helps you along the way. And like the older you get, now I'm just like old and bald, like the more you appreciate it. So it's been really cool to kind of reflect on all that the past couple of years.
So
that's incredible, man. As far as lacrosse pedigree goes, and playing at a prestigious program like Notre Dame, and then playing Division I football on top of that, and then the Denver Outlaws, for those who don't know, are one of the best teams, or one of the most famous teams, maybe in the other professional lacrosse league, and of course the Premier Lacrosse League, which you're a part of now, is the cutting edge of the sport, and I would say probably the best league in the U.S.
Well, it's always interesting to try and explain the dynamics of professional lacrosse, because A, sometimes people don't even know what lacrosse is or that it exists.
Yep.
And B, then you have to explain how there's outdoor and there's indoor, and then there's 2 outdoor leagues because the old one wasn't being ran properly, so they started a new one. But the indoor one's legitimate. It's just very Canadian. And, the people are sitting there like, yeah, I didn't ask about any of this. Like, shut up.
Understood.
That's awesome,
Understood.
I love that you said legitimate, but mainly Canadian. That was just struck me as funny. But
a lot of connects.
It's out there dangling.
So as far as like the MLL goes, and that was the previously sort of less well-run league. What was your biggest qualms with that organization as far as being a player?
So I think like a lot of times I am more on the fortunate end. So my 3 years with the Outlaws I will always be appreciative. It was really awesome to play in the Broncos Stadium. Like, not many players get to do that regardless of sport. So when I say it wasn't ran correctly, a lot of that is through my lens of having really enjoyed and loved my 3 years there. So with that being said, the league did not do a great job of like taking care of its players, in the sense that salaries were pretty low. Marketability was pretty low. Just like some of the PR and marketing strategies were like not very well executed. And then I think what really was difficult for the MLL was finding a cohesive strategy to roll it out on a national scale. So the Denver Outlaws actually had a decent following in Denver. The Chesapeake Bayhawks had a decent following out in Annapolis. But what are we doing for the sport on a national scale? And I think the PLL did a fantastic job of that for 2 reasons. One, they made it a tour-based model. So, instead of having the Denver Outlaws, think of the PLL almost like NASCAR or the WWE, where everybody's in one city, every lacrosse fan in
definitely like WWE, definitely like the WWE.
Yeah, we'll stick with WWE then. So you have people that are interested in WWE, and when they come to your hometown, it's going to get every pro wrestling fan that in the entire area to go to that game. So I think that's really helping it from a national perspective. And then they invested a lot of money in the marketing and PR and content and video production and graphics, to the point where, when you get your picture taken coming off the bus, you have access to that before the game so that you can post and say like, hey, reminder to watch. And then a huge thing was we signed a big contract with NBC Sports and NBC Maine to air the games. So just from a national perspective and, salary and healthcare and stuff, it's just a much more cohesive and well thought out strategy.
Sounds
That's awesome.
better.
That's awesome. That rolls me into my next question. Would you rather be the best player on the Denver Outlaws right now or the worst player on the Redwood?
I mean, right now I kind of am the worst player on the Redwoods, and I'm having a great time. So yeah, I have to say that.
All right,
awesome.
good answer. Good answer.
So John
JD.
Ryan, our Team Handball News confidant, he's he lives in Colorado Springs right now. He's got a lot of questions for you, but he was going for a long walk. He told me, so he wasn't going to tune in live. But he sent me some homework questions to ask you. So you touched on some of them a little bit, but he was wondering what kind of a ballpark average salary for a pro lacrosse player would be, and if you want to break it down from indoor to MLL to PLL, if there's any discrepancy or if they're all about the same. That's just kind of
So the way that works is like there's league minimums, but there's a ton of room for negotiation.
okay.
And I think when you talk about league minimums, it makes it sound a lot worse than it is.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the MLL, like when I was coming in, the league minimum for a rookie was about like, $6,500 to $7,000. And what's interesting about professional lacrosse as well is your time commitment is Friday night, Saturday, Sunday morning. So if I'm playing for the Outlaws and we play Chesapeake, I fly out of Denver at 6:30 p.m. I land. We have a late night practice. We have a walkthrough Saturday. We play Saturday afternoon, and then we all usually go out and have a good time in Annapolis, and then we get on a flight Sunday morning. So the time commitment per dollar you get is actually pretty fantastic because a lot of guys have 9 to 5 jobs. There are guys that work on Wall Street that are professional lacrosse players because the league is structured in a way that you can do it on weekends. So what that means is a lot of guys fall out of their rookie year because they don't keep up with their training, they don't keep up with their film, they don't keep up with their scouts. So the league minimum for the MLL was about $6,500, $7,000 when I was a rookie, and the league minimum for the PLL is $25,000 plus health benefit. So it's a huge step up. It's still, and then for the indoor league, when I say it's more kind of established, it means there's a player union, a salary cap. It means that there's a CBA. Just like the things that are inherently built into all the leagues, like they would send out the entire league's pay so that you had leverage negotiating. So I knew what every single player on every single team was making, because if I see that some guy that I'm better than is making 10,000, then I get to approach the coach and say, look at this guy making 10,000 more than me. I need to either, go up to that level or I need to trade.
Okay.
So it's really fascinating dynamics across the whole sport right now. But the PLL kind of came in with the deep pockets of Josiah and Rain Capital and a bunch of really wealthy investors, and they've started to take steps to legitimize and professionalize it in a way that we haven't seen before. So it was like 6, and then when I was a rookie for the Mammoth, it was about 15, and then the PLL is 25.
Dang, that's not
too shabby.
That's not bad at all.
No, and again, like you find ways to have that Monday through Thursday, Friday job. Like right now, I work for a company called Adrenaline, doing apparel and event sales, and I started my own business in conjunction with Adrenaline. So it's like, I've kind of put all my eggs in the lacrosse basket, which probably not the best idea with me being at the tail end of my career, but it's proven to be pretty well so far, just from the kind of life I get to live, going out and coaching and traveling and playing and making buddies and all that stuff.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Absolutely. I don't think lacrosse is slowing down anytime soon either, so I think you'll be safe for at least a while.
Yeah, I mean, we're noticing some of these pockets, especially like San Diego, LA, San Francisco are like the West Coast, and then you have Portland and Seattle. Like we're going to Boise for 2 weeks next week, and the lacrosse scene in Boise is exploding. And you say, yeah, there's actually some pretty good players in Idaho. People laugh, but it's like, there's kids going Division I out of Boise,
Dang.
so it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's something that I think like when I started playing lacrosse is definitely not where it is now, and you being out in Denver, like Denver was just this oddball, like this the East Coast just was inside Denver's for whatever reason, and it wasn't. Is it Bill Tierney? Is he the Denver University of
Yep.
Denver coach? Like he really has really done a great job, and I don't know if it's him or just the having Denver University out there that's really helped promote it and whatnot, but there's a hotbed out there, and so I think from your standpoint of a lacrosse business, you're going to be set for a while, running camps and
Yeah, and
clinics.
what's really cool about Denver too is like the Colorado Mammoth, the Denver Outlaws, and DU. Like those are three big organizations at the collegiate, the professional outdoor, and the professional indoor level. And all three of those teams kind of have initiatives to spread the game and grow the game, whether it's going to an elementary school, whether it's starting a club team, whether it's starting a youth program. Um, there's an abundance of resources, and it's not surprising that we have those three kind of pillars to prop up the entire lacrosse community. So, it's definitely like really fascinating dynamics. And just like overall the economic trends of lacrosse, it's really not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. That segues into. Go ahead, Joey.
No, you, JD.
I was going to say, John had a question about how do you continue to sell to future fans? Because his point was that he was watching some of the stats on attendance for the PLL, and some cities it's big, some cities you might miss a little bit, but how do you continue to grow that kind of fandom from city to city?
Yes, so it really is something that knowing a little bit more about the intricacies of lacrosse than any other game, I just ask, like, if I'm shooting the breeze with a random person, they're like, yeah, what is lacrosse like? I'll ask them what their favorite sport is. And there's something from that sport that I can draw and bring in. So it's like basketball. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, it's really cool because, there's something called crease attackmen, which are kind of like centers. And, they kind of hang out right near the goal or underneath the rim. And then there's two-man games. There's pick and rolls. There's this, there's that. There's outside shooters. Like, it's really cool. And then if they're like, yeah, I like football. It's like, oh, well, dodging is kind of like a wide receiver going on a cornerback. It's very physical. Then hockey, that's easy, stick and, this. And then, soccer, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like, flowing like soccer going up and down. So whatever your favorite sport is, I can usually know enough about that sport to cherry pick something and gain interest from a lacrosse perspective.
Good analogize to team handball.
Yeah. And honestly, like, especially for some of the less developed sports, a lot of it is just people not knowing. Like, oh yeah, I don't really know nothing about handball, but I love baseball. Like, okay, well, why don't you just watch for a minute and see if you like it? And baseball is kind of a different breed because I feel like you're just grown from a young age to love baseball.
For some reason.
But, America's pastime. But to like kind of have that transition, it's like, oh yeah, like just give it a chance and you're gonna find something that you like about it. It might not be your favorite sport, but you better be like sure that you're going to be entertained.
That's for sure.
Absolutely. So we're talking about sort of like the rising stock of lacrosse, but we have a phrase we like to throw around here on this podcast. That's buy stock in handball because buy low, sell high. And for all your Wall Street friends out there, there's no lower time to purchase stock in a sport than right now. But so I guess we can transition a little bit to handball. So what's your interest in that? Like, how'd you even get on your radar?
Yeah, so it got on my radar for because a former Notre Dame lacrosse guy, and his name is Duncan Swayze. He is an advisor for handball, and because it's just the Notre Dame lacrosse network. If you play lacrosse at a college, like the college lacrosse alma mater, like takes care of you, whether it's Notre Dame or any number of schools. It's just kind of a cool, tight knit community. And he moved out to Santa Monica after growing up out east and playing lacrosse at Notre Dame. And he started getting interested in handball when he was watching handball on the beach. And he said he put together a team of him and some of his like buddies who were like on USC volleyball and like, blah, blah, blah. And they could compete. And they couldn't compete because they knew handball. They could compete because they were fantastic athletes with really good handball teams. And so that got his interest sparked. And like, why isn't the USA like dominating handball? Like, you've been training for it from baseball, from football, from soccer,
from birth,
like your entire life. And so he took an advisory role, and when he took that advisory role, we all started getting pinged. And when I say we, it's usually the Notre Dame lacrosse guys who are playing professionally. And we're like, what's this? Like, did you get an email about handball? Like, what's this Duncan guy doing? And me kind of being more at the tail end of my career lacrosse wise, it's like, all right, well, that's kind of a bummer. Like, I'm not going to play competitive lacrosse again. And then so it's a really cool opportunity to be like, well, sometimes the lacrosse training gets stagnant. I'm like, I've been doing this for years and years, like just wrapped up my 5th year. I don't know what's going to be happening in life. I know this and that. And so when I got that email, I was like, like the Olympics are pretty cool. And USA team handball just needs people who don't necessarily know handball, but are decent athletes. I was like, well, I'll toss my hat in that ring. Like, I don't know how I stack up athletically to anybody else, but I know that I could be confident going into it in the learning process. So Duncan really kind of piqued my interest. And after, like, I ordered a handball, and like I filled out the Excel sheet with height, weight, accolades, and I'm like, I'm getting ready to go film myself probably tomorrow, like flinging the handball like against our garage wall. And it's fun. I mean, it's just fun just to like. I love a good game of catch. Whether we're in the park with a football, I'm bringing my handball now. It's like, it's kind of like a whole new exciting process. And the excitement of learning a new sport is something I haven't experienced in years because it's been just lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like all of those factors and Duncan's like being the catalyst for a lot of people's interest. I think it's going to start spreading, especially within the lacrosse community. I mean, we had Mark McNeil on that informational session as well. And he's a freak athlete. So it's like, like, all right, you got me and Mark, what's stopping from us telling, the rest of the PLL or, anything like that. So.
Yeah. I think it's something that Rabel would get into, like just as a person, as an athlete, or even as a business person.
I actually don't know. I don't know him that well. We know each other as competitors, so there's certainly some, button heads there. But I know he's a good dude and he's curious about a lot of things. And I think that's kind of like, even outside of sports, just an important thing to have in life is just curiosity. And I guarantee he would love to play it. I don't know if he would want to play it past a scrimmage. I don't know if he would be interested, but if it's something athletically, whether it's basketball, football, lacrosse, like he would be game to give it a shot. So,
Nick,
and he lives out near LA too. So
okay, well, that's good. You like handball now. Wait till you get to hit people, then it'll be even more entertaining because that's
like. I wanted to ask on the informational, but I'm like, are there like big hits? Like, can you smoke people? Probably not.
No, there's like strictly enforcers. Like a lot of teams will have guys that are, defensive specialists because that's kind of their, think of it as a defensive midi. You're swapping them off when you guys transition, and he's just kind of playing there to disrupt. And you can't take him to the ground, but you can lay into him as hard as you want as long as you hold him up. So basically, if you go through like a form tackle and just kind of hold on to him. Yeah, it's all fair there. So, yeah, and you got a guy full sprint, you're kind of two immovable objects colliding. It's good. It's good. We both play goalie, so Joey and I don't get to experience that a whole lot. And when I play the field, I get a red card almost within maybe 2 minutes. So, yeah, so I'm not allowed to play the field because I get too jacked up. But Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Joey's kind of alluding at like a PLL handball, crossover kind of thing, and I think that there's a lot of potential there, and I think having guys like you get interested, it's definitely a great first step. And if we can get to the point where we start get more and more of you guys, and even have you guys put together like a PLL team to compete in tournaments, I think that's something that's not out of the question. I don't know if that's of any interest to you guys, but I think that's definitely doable. You guys are definitely pretty spread out. It sounds like everybody's kind of in their own hometown. I don't know if there's a hotbed for people.
Yeah, the only big bummer that I've been running into is that it's just a nightmare to plan anything in 20.
Yeah.
Because I think if I truly think if it wasn't, then I would have already been out to California, like meeting Duncan face to face, and like starting to really ramp up training, and trying to get like what you were just saying, whether it's here or whether we just take a weekend, all go meet up as buddies and start, flinging the ball around. It's just, it's almost good that the only thing that like pro lacrosse players I think have over other players is kind of like that flexibility.
I think we lost him there for a second. Joey, you still there? I think we lost Nick.
Did we lose Nick?
Yeah. Well, he's just talking about flexibility, but I think one thing that lacrosse players, along with hockey players, bring to the table is the ability to shoot on a goal. That's something that you get a baseball guy or a football guy, and they're shoot to a player, or pass exactly to a point. And soccer is obviously a little different. They understand shooting, but it's with their feet. So, all right, looks like Nick's back, but
Are you there?
Yep.
Oh, I blew it.
No worries.
I don't even know what
Do a little switcheroo here on the camera, so I'll try to put you guys back. But
you're the first person to ever mess up a Zoom call, Nick. So
yeah. First person of 2020.
But Nick, you were just talking about lacrosse players and their flexibility and
And so flexibility in the sense that we all live in different areas. A lot of us can take a weekend if it's not during PLL season to go explore any number of things. And then also kind of in conjunction with that, because we have the flexibility, like most of us kind of have to have that discipline of training. And I kind of alluded to it earlier on why a lot of very talented players drop off. Because when you're in college, you have the structure of like, you better show up to your lifts. It's scheduled, it's here, it's there. But when you're kind of living on your own, not with your entire team, not with, the free training facility, you have to take steps to be disciplined in your training. And, it's kind of funny, like after PLL season got over, everybody takes a month off and just goes and, parties and eats and this and that. But it's pretty quick to get right back to, all right, well, pretty soon that month off can be 2 months, 3 months. And then you're like, oh, season's next week and I haven't done anything. So it's kind of funny to see like some of the less talented players have a little bit longevity because of their discipline, and some of the really talented players to not have the career that everybody thought they were coming out of college.
Interesting. Yeah, it's
super interesting.
It's kind of like, I would say, handball, obviously you don't have any people looking forward to your future after college, but it's definitely the same kind of problem where it's you just kind of pick up just randomly. We have a lot of guys at the club level that they might not come to practice for 6 months, and then they'll just come play in a tournament and still right where they left off. And as you'll see, Nick, when you get kind of into some of these, if you do hopefully get involved with any of the U.S. level tournaments, if you're an athlete, you'll pretty much take over the game, regardless of your handball knowledge. If I put a guy out there that played, I had a couple guys that have played D3 sports, I just throw them out there. I tell them throw the ball in the back of the net. They pretty much do it without much difficulty. Once you get to the more of the elite level clubs, then it's a little bit more of a battle. But kind of your mid-range and beneath, you can step right on the court and definitely be the best player out there.
I'm going to push back a little bit on like what's kind of said past few minutes, because I agree with JD. Like in the U.S., Nick, like you would be like people would be drooling. Like handball coaches in the U.S. would be really happy to have you. You would easily dominate without even playing in a game. Just like Duncan, I think you wrote an article a while back about that experience. But I think that's less of a, obviously handball is not a crazy hard game to learn. 3 steps, dribble.
Yeah.
But it does the sport kind of a disservice to write it off completely, because in Europe it's like a full-on professional sport. Like people like here, like with basketball or baseball, like people grow up playing it. And so I kind of analogize it to like the East Coast, like 10, 15 years ago, where like if you grew up playing in like Baltimore, you're going to be better than somebody from like Detroit. Fargo, North Dakota, right? So I'm curious, are you interested in just sort of playing competitively in the U.S., making it on Team USA? Because again, like if you dominate in the U.S., like, it's like winning prom queen at homeschool prom, right? You're the best guy among the U.S. players. But would you be interested in playing even further and trying to reach the pinnacle of the sport in Europe?
Well, I think that comes down to a ton of factors. And like even having a conversation, things that like I'm living with my girlfriend, for example. It would certainly be a hell of a pitch to try to go succeed in handball in Europe while she has a good stable job in healthcare here. So like there are just a ton of factors as far as like what would I be able to do? A, could I even make it? I mean, assuming that I could make it. B, do I have that time? And is that the life path that I want to take? Because right now I'm 27, there are things that need to be put into place over the next 5 years to make sure that I have that stability and that I have that, relationship that I want and, the family that I want and things like that. So, as far as, would I want to go give that a shot? Of course. What athlete wouldn't want to do that? And, I love watching American players go over and succeed in the EPL. I think that's a kind of sneaky story that everybody should be paying attention to more. Not that I am the biggest soccer fan, but I just love when, Americans can go over and play a sport at the highest level that is generally a pretty exclusive sport at that level, like soccer is. So, I mean, it's very easy to say yes. And then unfortunately, like the realistic approach to it is I need to see how successful I could be right now in America before I take that mental journey to what are the steps to go achieve at the highest level. So I almost wish I was like 22 again and I'll just be like, yeah, who cares? Let's go. But unfortunately that adulthood comes with some upsides and, it comes with some downsides as far as pursuing opportunities like that.
I can definitely relate.
Yeah, isn't that the worst, like, realistic answer ever?
Yeah.
It's the worst podcast guest ever. Like, give us a hot take. Yeah, well, there are factors to it. Like, yeah, it's just we're falling asleep.
Yep. No, you're fine. This is what gets our viewers really going. Get the juices flowing. Because Joey was able to do that. He took a year off. 6-8 months. Went to Denmark. Played on a professional team. Living it up.
Really, I was 22, so zero responsibilities at all. And I had my parents just help me out a ton. So it was a dream come true, man. But that was sort of, a wake up call because, I was like, I'm a fairly athletic guy, right? Again, D1 +2. But
who's counting?
Go over there. They're putting me in like the 14-year-old like travel team practice, and I'm getting whooped. And I'm not 14-year-old like boys, like 14-year-old like little girls are like absolutely posterizing me like during practice. And it was a big wake up call. And again, the analogy is like lacrosse. Like lacrosse, maybe nobody says this, but like imagine if people just said like, hey, if you're just athletic, like Odell Beckham could dominate lacrosse, right? And it kind of makes sense based on the experience I had in the U.S. But then you go over there where there's nuances and there's like, there's just like a lot more to it than you see at the beginning. It's an easy sport to dominate, it's an easy sport to learn, a challenging sport to dominate.
Yeah, and honestly, like when I hear things like that, it reminds me of the career that I had in indoor lacrosse, which is over now. But even knowing the very deep intricacies of outdoor lacrosse, indoor lacrosse, which almost sounds a little bit more, and from what I've seen on film, a little bit more like how handball is played, which is like constant picks, switching, cuts, this, that, jumping, shooting over, shooting around. Um, it's a very, very difficult sport. I played it at the highest level, and I still, like struggle sometimes, like even watching. I'm like, oh, like of course that should have happened. Like, what am I thinking? Like when I'm watching like handball on YouTube or something like that, it's really interesting to try and nitpick like the specific. I'm like, I wonder what the verbiage is when they try to switch on that defense. I wonder what that back cut like when they throw a cross crease pass to a guy that's like jumping in the crease. I'm like, I wonder whose fault defensively that was.
Yeah.
So it's like you can only learn so much on film without having ever played at a high level, but like watching it, I'm like, oh, like this is where you look like an idiot if you haven't played at a high level. Like that play.
Yep.
Sure.
I'm gonna pause.
That's called a Kempa.
Yeah,
that's a little lingo.
Alley-oop,
Yep.
Yeah, those look like they're going to be tough to do.
We're approaching our 40-minute mark, so I'm gonna hit the transition. If you guys want to jump back on for another little stint here, if that's cool with you, Nick, do you have time for a little bit more?
Yeah, I got about 10 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm gonna end this Zoom and we'll come right back. Thanks everybody for tuning in so far. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. We don't have much going on the Twitch machine, so if you got any questions, well, you're a little late. But always give a shout out to our sponsor Anchor, our sponsor KT Tape for supporting all of our kinesio tape needs, the Theramu CBD sponsor we got, and who else we got on the sponsorship tier. We're working on finding more sponsors as time goes on, but if you would like a plug, this is your opportunity. So reach out to us. We'll give you a nice little shout out on the sponsorship. Maybe if you're a subscriber, we'll give you a sponsorship. So you never know. So we got a couple subscribers. We're starting to make money. This is a reminder for all you Twitch people out there. Go give us a sub, and each one of those dollars goes to promoting the sport of handball, and that's what we're out here to do. So like I've said time and time again, if you got Amazon Prime, then you can subscribe to us free of charge under the Amazon's partnership with Twitch through Prime Gaming. So get out there, get on Twitch, give us a subscription. So I'm almost ready to finish up the camera work here, doing a little last minute adjustments. Dipsy doo-dah daroo. One more second. Okay, and we're back. Sorry for the little transition there, folks, but Nick and Joe, you guys were just talking about how I just forgot exactly what we were talking about. I was talking to myself for the last like 30 seconds and my mind went blank. It's all good. Son of a gun. You guys were talking about how... Go ahead, Joey. Fill me in. Save me.
Yeah. Basically just the nuances of and intricacies of the sport and how it's similar to lacrosse in that regard. And specifically, is it officially called box or is it just indoor lacrosse?
Box. So it's like it's funny knowing all the terms now. It's like indoor lacrosse. It's like no, like you will get made fun of by the Canadians who are surprisingly mean and creative with their insults.
Oh yes.
For having the stereotype of being nice guys. They will kill you if you call it indoor.
They'll tear you to shreds for almost anything. It's being this close to
smile.
Windsor is tough for my self-esteem at times. But Nick, I think I only got one more question here.
John has a lot more questions that he wanted me to ask.
John be careful when John starts asking questions, Nick.
Yeah.
If you ever meet John, he is like I don't even know how to describe him, but
we'll just keep going.
Yeah, he's like the official news outlet of handball in America, so pretty much everything handball runs through him.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's
don't let the official fool you. He's the only one, so that says it all right there. Nick, what needs to happen for handball to get to the level of lacrosse in the U.S.?
To get to the level of lacrosse, I would say handball. The beauty of handball, and I think the big key difference that makes it have a lot of potential, is the low cost of investment for the.
Yep.
And what lacrosse has done a good job of is the places that it is relatively established. They are like what I was just saying with Denver is the Mammoth are in elementary schools. The Outlaws are running clinics and camps and clinics at a very low fee for the surrounding area. DU is, they're out in the community doing, charitable contributions and charitable service and things like that. Not knowing much about like the dynamics of handball is it's a gym game and people kind of play it, but I never met anyone that played handball growing up. And I think there are some people in Colorado that play handball. And I would love to see them being proactive. And I don't know about how it works from a revenue standpoint or how it works from a club organization standpoint. Like without knowing much about the structure of it, lacrosse was introduced to me in the context of there is something else to achieve. Like there is a professional league, you can go to college for this. And if handball was introduced to me as there is something beyond, just this gym class, you can go to the Olympics for this. I think that's kind of like an important shift in tone because it captures the audience of, oh, I can go be a professional lacrosse player versus I can go be a professional handball player. And right now it seems like the general gist of it is, oh yeah, like we played it once in gym class and it was fun, but nobody gave it context of it. You can get all the way up here playing it. So honestly, just like the proactivity in the youth community, as well as ensuring that when you introduce it to a kid, and that's what captivated me about football. That's what captivated me about lacrosse. And I never saw lacrosse on TV. So, I'm not just saying, oh yeah, it's like football where you can say, go play on college football Sunday or Saturdays and NFL Sundays. Like I never knew anything about pro lacrosse, but it was introduced as kind of something you can make a living out of.
That's super,
That's a good question.
Exciting.
I was kind of on the spot. So
yeah, you nailed that.
Yeah, you did.
Seriously, that
fantastic. That's
the
Olympic.
Thank you so much, Nick. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure it won't be too long before we talk soon.
Yeah. And if you're looking to get involved, shut them down. So, yeah, if you want to get involved with some stuff out in the Denver area, we got, the West Point guys. They're probably still doing something. And then there's a club that tried to start in Denver, but they never really got off the ground. So if you want, I can connect you with him, and you guys could go toss, and he might be able to give you a few pointers or something like that. Or if you want to help with your video or however you want to do it. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that'd be great because I think the ball is flat and weird, but I don't know any context about it. So
probably should pump it up a little bit. There's a bladder inside. You want. I personally like flat balls. Everybody else, they don't like flat balls because I try to promote not dribbling. And they're like, JD, it's you and your old flat balls. And I'm like, jeez Louise, kids, man. But yeah, you want to pump it up.
Like, yeah, and send in a video of you throwing it and send in a video of you like doing the serpentine drill. And I'm like, I'm struggling to dribble it, but
it's every 3 steps. The Olympic team for a sport in the United States is literally asking just random Americans to send in a video of them just like running a serpentine pattern with a deflated volleyball. Like,
listen, that's how it has to start. Who am I to judge? Because you have to fill out height, weight, where'd you play in college, what was your other sport, what's your resume, what's your video, what's your highlights, now what's your handball throw weight. And what a great way to weed people out because it's like, yeah, I was this, and then they throw the ball like that. Like, yeah.
Uncle Rico.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw it over them mountains.
Exactly.
Nick, I got two closing things for you. I got two quick closing things. One.
All right, quick.
If you can keep talking up handball for us with the PLL guys. It'd be huge, big help for
Yep.
all of us. And 2, make sure when you sell it to them, you don't get this opportunity to be a true founding father of a sport and make a huge difference like you guys have. You guys have a platform. I try to tell people all the time, look, you get in now at the ground level, the options are limitless. You have the potential to be, someone looking back in history that in handball. Exactly. So
Buy
cool.
stock in handball.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on. This was great talk. This was nice. It was good. I like this shorter show. It's good. We get right to the point. It's nice. So
yeah.
Thanks again. If you got any questions for Nick, make sure to send them to us. We'll reach out to him, or you can just reach out to Nick. I put his social media stuff out there on our little transition slide. So as always, everybody, keep shooting, shooters. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Yeah, have a good day. All right.
That was fucking awesome. Dude, that was sick. How did you get connected with him? Oh crap. Whoops. Whoopsies.